guys, Justin with Deep Dive Stocks here, and today we're going to be doing a data dive on NVIDIA. So let's get started. So as usual, we're going to start with the VoEx graph. If you haven't, I would definitely recommend checking out my videos on VoEx on my channel. It goes, the videos go over what it measures, what it tells us, and all that good stuff. The main takeaway points are we don't really want VoEx to be above the top horizontal line or below the bottom horizontal line, which, as we can see, NVIDIA is quite a repeat offender. So when we look at the current data, we see that VoEx fell into the propagation zone, which is that space below the bottom horizontal line, in December of 2021. This is indicative of continued and persistent declines in price, which is exactly what we've seen. Now, it seems like in the past month or so, NVIDIA had a little bit of a run-up in price, but it doesn't seem like it was sufficient to bring VoEx back into stability, and in fact, VoEx is now dropping further into the propagation zone, again, indicative of continued declines in price. VoEx is, although not necessarily the main topic of today's conversation, but VoEx obviously was doing some wild things in the beginning of 2021, so maybe in another video we'll dive into what was going on back then and to see if maybe that has any influence on what is happening now. Moving on from VoEx, we can go to the snap graphs. The snap graphs translate VoEx's behavior a little bit more mathematically than just it brings the science to the art and science of interpreting VoEx. And so we have the 1 month, the 2 weeks, the 1 week, and the 1 day. And this takes VoEx behavior and maps it on how that VoEx behavior with the price action that followed. And so we see that if we look at the crosshairs, there's neutral returns for Monday, negative returns noted for the next week, negative returns noted for the next 2 weeks. But surprisingly, we have some pretty bullish outlook for over the next month. So it'll be interesting to see if this snap graph, the 1 month snap graph, is usually the more conservative of the snap graph. So it'll be interesting to see if this doesn't start declining back below the gold line as this more near-term bearish price action takes effect. Moving to the expected price range graph, we see that, so this is the expected price range graph. The dotted lines represent the 68% probability kind of price range that a stock can be expected to reside within. And we see that NVIDIA is also a pretty repeat offender for moving outside of the expected price range, which is pretty interesting. This also seems to coincide with a high volatility of volatility, which is pretty interesting, especially, I think most people think that NVIDIA is a rather stable company, right? So kind of a stable stock, but we see here that NVIDIA actually moves more and like in greater steps than the market expects, almost on a pretty regular basis. So that'll be something to keep in mind. Moving towards the shorting, we can see that shorting has increased recently, although it seems like lately there is now a decreasing amount of shorting going on. So keep that in mind. The options layout. So on the left here, we have how the options currently are, and on the right, we have the change in options from the day prior. So the gold lines or the gold bars represent the change in options from the day prior, and the line represents the average change in the average daily change in options for that strike over the past month. So we see that over the past month, the average change has been positive for the calls as well as for the puts. But on Friday, a significant amount of calls closed, almost 200% of what seems like the $300 calls closed. So that's pretty significant. In terms of the options layouts themselves, believe it or not, how the options are laid out on a stock can actually affect the stock's price as well as the overall stability of the stock. And we see that the calls follow a nice normal distribution pattern, which is healthy. And then the puts also follow, should be a little bit more of a right tail here. So you would like to see a little bit more of these out of the money puts versus these in the money puts, but this isn't terrible. So it's a relatively stabilizing options layout. The problem is, this is provoking a gamma squeeze on NVIDIA, and we see that the net delta is negative 500,000. So that's a pretty significant gamma squeeze. And if we go down to the hedging matrix, we can see the effects of this gamma squeeze. So the hedging matrix shows us the change, how the change in price or volatility, how much hedging has to be done in order to hedge all of the options. And we see that every time the price goes down, more selling must occur, and every time the price goes up, more purchasing must occur. And on Friday, this netted a 6 million share selling requirement just in the movements of the price and volatility. So hedging or gamma squeezes can become a pretty significant driving force in a stock's price, especially considering that that's over 10% of the daily volume that was seen on Friday. And that's with Friday's data, right? So since the gamma squeeze has gotten worse, we can expect even greater selling pressure if the stock continues to decline. So that's NVIDIA in a nutshell. It's a deep dive stock report. So again, we saw on VoEx, it's deepening into the propagation zone, which is consistent with negative returns. This is echoed in the snap graphs, although it seems like the snap graph still has a pretty bullish outlook for the next month, but it'll be interesting to see if that doesn't start to change a little bit. From the expected price range graph, we see that NVIDIA is a repeat offender for moving more than the market expects. Shorting is decreasing. The options are healthy, but it isn't a gamma squeeze. And in terms of the expected price range, for instance, if we wanted to play the downside on NVIDIA, we would look at the expected price range table, which gives us it's the same as the graph derived from implied volatility, but it gives us the expected range for NVIDIA over the next week. And we see that the lower value is 216.92, but as we saw with the expected price range graph, NVIDIA usually moves more than the market expects. So we could expect NVIDIA to probably be lower than 216.92 in 5 trading days time. So that's NVIDIA. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys like these data dives, please like, comment, and subscribe. And before I forget, Deep Dive Stocks is having a promotion, 25% off both premium membership and the Gamma Gainers newsletter. If you use the code First Dive, I'll put it in the description along with a link. But if you like this type of data, if you want to keep track of stocks that are in a gamma squeeze and when they stop being in their gamma squeeze, or you could sign up for the Gamma Gainers newsletter. Or if you want to start looking at this data for yourself, these reports, go ahead and sign up to be a premium member, which is 25% off as well. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.